Benevolent leadership from the stars have come to Earth to work with us to create a magical school. As a group of light workers, we have come together and are creating a consortium to serve the highest good of the collective in sharing hope, possibility, and freedom, while providing a refuge from the chaos of the great change. Welcome. Welcome to the School of Light podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Leanne, and today, as we continue in our introductions of the creation team, I would love to share with you the essence and the light of Philippa Hick. Welcome, Philippa. Oh, it's so fun because we're just giving little tiny appetizers of our light to the listeners, and down the road we'll actually be doing more demos and coming together for, you were talking like those synergy circle activations that we tend to do when we're all together. But to start off, just to get people to understand a bit, tell me that you're kind of the mother of this idea of a podcast for the School of Light. Can you tell me a little bit about why that idea came through for you?
It's just amazing what comes from a session internally within the school members. And I know that there's so much that we could share within those sessions that we have, which are safe containers and beautiful spaces that we hold for each other as we we've worked through a lot of energy sequences through the gene keys together, and we've done some amazing work together in forming the School of Light. And so when we start to share these interactions and this magic, how can we do that? And it was I don't know if it was a question of how, but it was just podcasts came through, and just the way of how we interact and how just through the fun and connection and holding space for each other and the gifts that each of us hold, and just sharing how it's absolutely phenomenal what comes from the sessions.
Yes.
And I just felt that a podcast of utilizing the gifts that we have and how we naturally flow together and interact, would be magical to share.
As you're speaking, it's almost like it gave the School of Light her voice. I feel like that is such a great way to share that and explain that. Thank you so, so much. One of the questions that I've asked almost everybody as I've gone through these sneak peeks into each of the creation team is, you described the rainbow of lights that we bring together, as well as the alignment or our potential alignment of how that could fit with the chakra, if it came, the different chakras in terms of healing. I want to know if you could feel into your color or your texture or your sound of light. What would it look like or taste like? Or
okay, so when I feel into my color, the color that comes forward is orange. And there's like a glistening on top of the water, like the sparkles on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a delicate, gentle movement and dance on top of the water.
Oh, yes.
And which is, it kind of feels, it's a sensation. It's not just something to look at. It's a sensation.
Mm-hmm.
and the taste of that is smooth and soft.
Oh.
Taste smooth. And a little bit like if I was to describe it as a taste and a texture, it would be like vanilla ice cream or a vanilla mousse or something like that.
I love that. Light and fluffy, but rich and creamy. And, we could go somewhere with this. Okay. Now next you're going to come up with an idea that we have to come up with like an ice cream flavor or something. So one of the things that I have found is that we have known each other in a variety of ways throughout the years. And many of us connected in a magic school years ago, a mystery school. Yet that's not where we all have met. And I know that through the years, we have evolved and grown. And if you could share a little bit, when and how did you get into this space of the energy healing or the work that you do? And we're going to get into a little bit of that in a second.
Okay. So when I hit 40
we won't talk about when that was. That's okay.
When I hit 40, I was like, I'm going to start again. I want to start again. And I recognized that there was some things uncovered about myself that I wasn't really I was very unaware of.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple of things particularly regarding my character and my personality, and I'm an introverted person, and I'm quite a shy, private person. And so I wanted to go on a discovery journey, really, or I wanted to unfold and uncover what it was about me that I didn't really understand, and connect to myself. So I started energy work. I started, my sister, actually, I'm a twin, and my sister went to back to college to study holistic therapy. And I was quite interested in what she was studying at the time, but my route went a little bit differently, and I started to study energy, and particularly journeying and reading energy, which I absolutely loved. I found very exciting and quite an unusual. It was very new to me, and it still is very new to me every time I do energy work, because you will see things that you never expect to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful. It's a lovely experience, and so I started to get into energy work, and my original plan as to what I was actually moving in to understand about myself actually opened up a whole new world for me. It really did. It opened up my world into a lot of new dimensions, to understand that there's so much more to me, like there's so much more to us, to the universe, to life, to creation. There's so much into like a wondrous world, really, that we live in,
mm-hmm.
within the universe, and in the world.
Kind of like that infinite soul that we both unknowingly reached for and anointed ourselves, that essential oil perfume.
Yeah. So I find that the work that I practice now and the changes that I've made in my own life were the work that I do has enabled me and helped me to do that, and helped me to step into and become or return to myself, or my true self and my essence, and to be more of myself and happier in the way I am being and doing in the world. And it feels much easier.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful to see how we each have grown in our, I mean, you're so bright, and you always were, but there's a groundedness to your light now, which I think makes it so much more powerful. Tell me a little bit about the direction that you've gone into. I think our listeners would be fascinated to hear, especially, like the type of work that you did with me some weeks back.
Okay, yeah. So I moved from the corporate world, which I was in a career for 25 years, and I've retrained, so I'm a professionally qualified trainer and coach in mindfulness, meditation, and relaxation. I'm also qualified in heart journeying and uncovering the heart and heart-centeredness, and somatic therapy.
That's a lot.
I also
body, mind, soul. You got it all there. Okay.
Yeah, which is important to me because I know when I started my journey, I worked a lot with nutrition. I worked a lot with the body. I worked with the mind and the soul, and it was very important for me because I know the challenges that I personally felt, that if I was going to be working with people, I wanted to be able to have to be able to support and hold space in all the modalities. I felt that was really important for me. And so this is why I actually started in mindfulness, meditation, and energy work, which I found I received a lot of when I actually committed to my own practice through actually becoming a practitioner. That was when I actually, by serving others, was when I committed to myself.
Right
And which was an interesting journey, but they made it very much easier to commit to myself. And that was I had to journal and meditate consistently as part of the training for 2 months. And during that period, it was like, I can't understand why I put off the meditation practice, because I found it so supportive and so enlightening and so freeing, and some really interesting self-discoveries came from that in such a really gentle and beautiful way, without a lot of particular effort of going anywhere. I could do this practice at home in the safety of my own home, and I can follow a practice, and didn't take up an awful lot of time, but gave me an awful lot back in return.
Yeah.
So it's the simple things, I think, we learn that when we actually decide to try something, it's how beautiful that return can be, and what we can receive from that.
And listening to your soul, some part of you really wanted that, and you listened. Wow. So when did somatic enter the picture? Because I know the mindfulness meditation, I know the energy work and the soul work, but when did you get into the somatic? Because that was a new twist to your, and very enriching part of the work that we did together.
Okay, so as an individual, I'm very much an embodied person. I need to remind myself of that. I'm very much into horses. I've had horses all my life, and I could be stuck in my headspace a lot, and I recognised that I needed to really ground and learn a modality to how to really ground and help and support others to help and ground and centre in their body. And so I decided to look into how did it? Oh, I actually started having treatments myself with a somatic healer through some trauma that I'd experienced myself, and I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed at how the body stores memory, and how the body keeps a score of what's actually happened and remembers. There's memory within the body, and within the nervous system, as you know, the body remembers. It's not just something that gets stored in the mind, it's something that's in our movement, and it's triggered in our movement, and it can be very subtle, and it can also be very profound depending on our life experiences.
Yeah.
So I actually initially started with treatment, and then I went on to do training myself through body work, which it's very interesting because I can actually use the embodiment work and the movement work, which basically helps to realign the central nervous system in a very, very, very slow, minutely small, gentle movements within the body, so that the body doesn't become distressed. It's very important that the body doesn't become into a distressful situation. So it's extremely small, extremely exquisitely simple, and slow movement, very, very slow. So they were actually starting to connect to the sensations in the body and the muscle structure. And we're actually really feeling into not just what's happening within that movement, but what's actually happening around that movement in the muscle structure, say, for example, in the opposite leg or the opposite foot, or, you know, within the whole body system. And this allows the body to realign itself through the central nervous system, which basically restructures the self and the system and the body, and it will start to uncover memory. So there's a lot of memory that starts to come forward, and flow and movement from like a releasing.
Right.
So there's an awful lot of a lot of good, healthy releasing and letting go, and so the body and the mind starts to be able to move much more freely. So it's very good for people who've actually gone through any sort of traumatic experiences. And it's also good for people who may be in their elderly years, or who have some sorts of symptoms of Alzheimer's or things like that, or restrictions in their body movement. So it's really beneficial for a whole group and range of different challenges or pains that we might be experiencing.
So then tell me how that this combination of modalities that you are playing with right now, how does that allow someone's light to shine more brightly?
I sense that I see that the way it helps someone's light to shine more brightly is because the mind and the body are connected, and it's about joining the two together, because we could be working a lot in the headspace, and we could be doing a lot of work in the headspace of letting go of and changing our belief patterns and being aware of our thoughts, etc. However, we may stay in this section but be disconnected from here downwards. We may be disconnected, so we're not actually connecting into the subtleties of just simple things such as, how am I sitting in my chair? How am I sitting? How am I walking around? You know, am I walking as though the world's on my shoulders? Am I walking in in a position of self-empowerment? Am I, is my posture in self-empowerment? Is my movement in flow, or am I rushed? Is my hip movement restricted? Is my spine in pain in any area? Am I lopsided in my posture, which I'm not actually necessarily aware of? But by really slowing down and connecting to the mind and the body, we start to connect to what's happening with the soma,
right,
the whole mind body.
mm-hmm.
And so then when we become so much more aware of the whole self, and so the enlightenment isn't just in here, or what am I thinking? And I need to release this thought because it isn't serving me. It's about what's actually happening in my whole soma. What's happening within the whole of me. And by when it's magical, it's so enlightening. It's so enlightening. When we start to slow down in our walking pace, we start to notice how our feet are touching the floor. We start to notice if we're in harmony in our balance. Are we in flow in our walk? Are we holding ourselves tight and rigid? Is there something that we're, it's like when something it gives us a fright and we're startled. It's a natural reaction, but sometimes we can get stuck in these reactions, and this is where the memory lies, in this stuckness. But by doing these lovely movements, these lovely slow movements, and you don't need to practice it very long or for very much time, you start to unravel. You start to unravel and realign. So you're bringing the body and the mind into harmony. You're bringing the whole self into harmony and more flow. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's where light can flow through, because there's a softness, which you described in the very beginning when you're describing yourself. There's a softness and there's an openness, right? An ability to allow the light to flow through. When we are holding so tightly, we push away the light, I think, in those constricted areas. So, wow, I bet there's so much health benefits around all of that. I have two more questions for you. And one is that I want to ask about, we all in some way, shape, or form play with the gene keys. Are you utilizing them, or do you just use that languaging, or how do the gene keys play into the work that you do?
When I'm working with myself in my own personal development and my clients, and the gene keys forms a structure to our work. So I love the gene keys because they give us structure to a foundation and a map. So there's a real journey there as to what we're working with and how we can structure the work depending on what individuals are actually looking for. So I find that I incorporate the gene keys in all my one-to-one classes, so that we can actually reflect upon the gift sequence. We can look at the gifts, and we can looking at the doing and how our life's work and that challenge line there, which can have some amazing breakthroughs just by focusing. I also find as well, and don't know about you, Deborah, but I find that less is more when we're working with the gene keys. There's so much, and I remember when I started working with the gene keys, and I didn't really, I jumped into the gene keys and I found it absolutely fascinating, and it really served me because I love structure. I need structure. We all need structure, right?
Yeah.
And so it keeps you on a path. And I find when we're working with the gene keys with my clients, is that when we're focusing on really slowly in one particular area, and one particular key and one particular line theme, that's that's where when we're slowing it down, and I'm talking. This seems to be a bit of a theme for our
I
chat
like
today.
it because I like it because
Yeah,
this is so needed in our world where we think we can watch a whole Netflix series in one evening or one weekend. We're like,
yeah,
we just
yeah,
have to we have to
yeah,
cram it all in. And
yeah. I do
that
it.
patience is not one of my gene keys, by the
No.
way, but it's needed right now. And I think as we do slow down, you would be a great coach around that to allow us to. Sometimes we don't want to slow down because then we have to feel, then we have to notice what's real, then we have to notice
Yeah.
what's up for us. So the last thing that I want to ask you is, if someone is intrigued and really wants to know more about your work, how can they reach you or connect with you?
Oh, there's lots of nice ways to connect with me.
Mm-hmm.
Can connect with me. I actually have a website,
Okay.
which is www.philippahick.com.
Okay.
And that so you can connect with me there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
or Twitter.
Are these all under Philippa Hick, everyone?
They're all under Philippa Hick, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And
Yeah.
are you a Facebook person or?
I'm a Facebook person. I'm not particularly active on Facebook. I do post on Facebook. I'm actually, although I do like to keep in touch on social media, I'm not there several times a day.
Right. No, I get it. And
Yeah.
and I know you and I, because we're internationally talking, we reach each other a lot on Facebook Messenger for video chats and such too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So well, thank you for your time today. I cannot wait until we get to play in additional episodes. And until that time, I just want to say thank you for sharing your light with us today.
Oh, thank you very much, Deborah. It's been lovely to be here.